Ow!
Greetings, YouTube. This is Dak Crash, better known as Brandon, and welcome to another Quantum Leap review. And so, when we last left Ben, he had leaped into the life of this person in a bar with another guy hitting on him. And then he kind of rebuffs his advances. And at first, I thought he was in a gay bar, but no, when he looks in the mirror, you find out he's a woman. So, we're going into that territory now, it seems. And so, he wasn't as shocked and disoriented by everything as Sam was in his first leap as a woman. And neither did he seem to be as bothered by it. Now, in all fairness, I don't know how to take that because I think that any guy would probably be very uncomfortable in that particular situation. Now, granted, it could be maybe that Ben tends to, it might be part of Ben's personality. He tends to take things in stride a bit more and is realizing maybe by now to kind of expect being anyone, anywhere, and anything. Maybe he's even read up some on the things that went on with Sam. I don't know if that information, if he's privy to that kind of information in the project, the different types of people that Sam leaped into. So I don't know he how flexible he is. It seems that either he's very flexible, and so this particular situation he took in stride, or the writers kind of goofed and really should have milked this a bit more about living life from a woman's perspective. However, they did make up for that in making this particular episode very fast-paced. Now, at first, I thought it was a little on the weak side, and really I think I need to backtrack a bit. So, from the beginning, you see this Ben, and I'm probably going to make that mistake multiple times throughout all these little podcasts I do. So, from the very moment you see that Ben has leaped into a woman, the woman's name is Ava Sandoval, and the year this time is 1981, and it's in Los Angeles. And it seems that Sandoval is engaged to a gentleman, and I'm trying to find his name. Suddenly I'm blanking on it, so give me just a second. Oh boy, Jake, that was his name. A guy who looks more like somebody who came out of current year than somebody in 1981, which is kind of odd. But it still looks okay. And they're engaged, and as a matter of fact, to make things even funnier, he kind of walks in on him being proposed to by Jake, and so Ben, and pretty much any guy, I think, who would, be able to handle the shock and stress of this particular situation, would probably say, well, I need more time. That's, perfect little Dodge answer. However, Jake does not take it very well, and throughout the entire adventure, Jake just gets more and more depressed and more upset and just more frazzled about the whole deal, double, triple, and quadruple thinking, second guessing, and wondering why his girlfriend wouldn't agree to be his fiance, even though everything that, well, of course, these things that Ben didn't know about, leading up to the whole deal, how Ava seemed to be all for it, why all of a sudden get cold feet. But then even Addison tells Ben that, as according to Ziggy, she says no, and neither one of them ever get married, So it seemed that they were kind of two ships passing in the night. Well, but between all that going on, they have to take care of a particular case because they're bounty hunters. They got a bounty whose name is Tammy Jean Jessup, who was basically a bail skipper because she had like tons of parking tickets. Well, you find out through the adventure that she's not quite what she seems. She seems to be all sweet and maybe even a bit innocent, and then you find out that she's the head of a drug cartel that's trafficking cocaine. So the whole adventure is basically trying to avoid her goons and find her and put her into custody before she manages to skip town, which shows up to be a lot harder than it looks. So the episode was, but the episode was pretty straightforward, and it was dealing with the whole issue between that. I think the more deep seated issues with Jake, and I think that it did kind of expose some of his own hang-ups, I guess, because of one particular part where things kind of come to a head. And I don't really want to spoil it big time for everyone. But it seems that, Ben wants kind of a happily ever after, but he's got more going on in this episode, as a motivating factor than just, maybe being enamored by the whole fact that the guy was this in love with the girl. And of course, Ben just kind of shoved it to the side because he didn't want to kind of get into that kind of a situation with a guy. That's pretty normal for any straight guy who would be in that kind of situation, of course. However, and I kind of lost my train of thought here. Now I remember, the reason why he does this is because he's starting to get his memory back about him and Addison. And if you remember the prior episode when he was a boxer, when he got hit, he's had that waking dream of him and Addison, though he didn't really clearly remember if it was Addison. But then in this leap, it starts getting clearer and clearer. Then right before he leaps, he realizes Addison and tells her, "It's you. You're the woman I love," and he leaps out of there. So another, fairly decent episode. I felt that it wasn't as good as the prior one and a bit light on plot, but it does drop some pretty big bombs, which happen in the B plot in the present day. And that happens when Magic talks to Ian, the head computer geek of the whole group, about what what's that woman's name? Janice Calavici is doing. They found that she's been basically trying to get into Ziggy's systems, and especially looking at a lot of their personal files. For some reason, she's trying to figure out the way that Ziggy works is that she uses sort of a butterfly effect program to figure out how what Ben is there to do, and the ramifications of his actions throughout history. Well, she was trying to use their bios, to the Quantum Leap Team bios, to try to figure out, to try to make a butterfly effect program to see how their actions would affect the future, which is a very interesting idea, although I don't know really what is going to happen here. So, I want to, kind of check that out. But so what Ian needs is, access to everybody's, bios. However, they're all, got a lot of security around them, and especially those from Magic, who of course is an ex-soldier and member of the military. So Magic instead decides to go and take Ian to go get some coffee and explain something to them. So before you go looking around through my stuff, I'll give you access, but I want to explain some things to you first before you do that, so you're not going to be poking around the wrong stuff. And so he explains the sequence of events that happened when Sam leaped into him. For those of you who don't know, Herbert Magic Williams is a character from the prior Quantum Leap series, who Sam leaped into. He was a soldier during the Vietnam War. And, of course, with Sam's help, managed to save his platoon, and especially Sam's brother and Magic, from being killed. In the original timeline, they were all killed in action. And so Magic ends up talking about what happened to him during that leap. It was a very interesting explanation. I'm not going to talk about exactly what he says. I really want people out there to start watching this series. but it gives you a good insight onto what goes on with that person when Sam leaps into them. I will say this. No, they don't remember what happened. But if something interesting happens before the leap occurs. And then of course Magic talks about some files that he found that clued him in on what happened during that particular point in time, and learning about Project Quantum Leap and learning that Sam had leaped into him, and learning what the original timeline was supposed to have been. And so that's what gave him the desire to bring the whole thing back, because when he learned that Sam never returned, he put the project together to bring him back. Excuse me. And so that just, makes me wonder, was Scott Bakula just trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes when he said that he turned the role down? Because more and more it looks like the series is pointing to them trying to find Sam. And maybe even what Janice is trying to do. Whatever she's building, whatever she's using, well, I don't want to spoil anything for, but whatever she's creating, is something maybe to try to find Sam. So I really more and more am thinking that they're working towards bringing back Scott Bakula, even if it's for a cameo. Now, another guy who was doing a podcast was saying, do I think that he is going to, finally come back and stay? Probably not. Now, I don't know myself. My particular personal opinion is that I really don't know. Because here's the thing. They've already got the lady who played Al's wife, whose name escapes me right now. It was the same one from the original series. But there's one particular person they haven't spoken to yet, or haven't brought on the show. Donna, Sam's wife. So if there would be anyone who'd be worth Sam coming back home to, it would be Donna. Even in the original series, there was an episode where Sam temporarily did go home. When there was some sort of accident when he leaped, lightning struck, and somehow it switched Sam and Al around. Sam was in the imaging chamber. Al was stuck in the 1940s. And he figured out a way to get out the imaging chamber, was reunited with the rest of the Quantum Leap crew, and then he started getting his memory back. And right before the door opened, and he told Al, he's like, "Why didn't you tell me, Al?" And I think Al didn't remember, because Al still had that Swiss, as they called it, Swiss cheese memory back in the time. But when he told Donna, "How can I forget you?" And then later on in the episode, they were outside, together, and he said, "I wish Al was here so I could kick his butt. Why didn't he tell me, about you?" And she said, "I asked him not to." And he said, "Why?" And said, "But could you have acted independently if you knew you were married?" So, that's the reason why, one of the reasons why, a lot of information was kept from Sam. So in this particular case, with Ben, yeah, there's a lot of information being kept from Ben, but of course it's for other reasons. Particularly, we know that they don't know how they can trust him if they have somebody, doing, sticking their nose into Project Quantum Leap for her own, unknown purposes, who won't even bother to talk with them, and who's, rather just burn her servers rather than let them figure out what she was planning. So God only knows what's going on. I mean, and really, in all fairness, the only thing that I could imagine Janice is trying to do is to find Sam, because, she owes Sam just as much of a debt of gratitude as her father does and her mother does. I mean, this girl went so far as to drug her own mom just to get, well, a particular thing from her. Like I said, watch the show. So, all of this seems to be pointing to Sam. So I really don't know what lies ahead. But I definitely am on board for the next episode, because in this one, Ben leaps so far back in time. He's in the Old West. So this is going to be really interesting because I think about the farthest Sam ever leaped back in time was to the Civil War. So wondering he's even going to go further back. And they did talk about this in the B plot where you were talking about what the whole program that Ben was running with Ziggy that was trying to utilize points in time almost in the same way that the Voyager used the gravitational field of the different inner planets to slingshot itself to the outer planets. You're trying to get to a certain point in time, and it's going further and further out, and in so doing, he's also being able to leap outside of his own lifetime, which, of course, the Project Quantum Leap guys said that it was supposed to be impossible. And even with Sam, developing all the theories and equations that allow them to be able to do this time travel device, so you were only supposed to be able to leap within your own lifetime. The only reason why Sam was able to leap so far back in time was because he had a genetic connection to his great-great-grandfather, if memory serves. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this particular one. And so for this reason and far more, I'm hoping that other people who, get wind of this little podcast and then other review podcasts as well will be more interested in this show. I've done other podcasts like this before for those of you who have followed my channel in the past. I've done things for Defiance, I've done things for Terra Nova, and I've done things for Tron Uprising. All three shows were ones that were canceled fairly early. Defiance lasted 3 seasons, but everything else lasted only 1. It is my hope, ladies and gentlemen, that this show actually, goes the distance. That it gets more than just 1 season, but the only way it's going to do that is if people actually watch it. And I'm really enjoying this series. Now, this episode, as I said, was somewhat weaker than the others. Probably give it about 7 out of 10. It was good, but it wasn't as good as the prior one. But it still had some pretty good, interesting plot building, especially that personal moment between Ian and Magic, where Magic talks about, what it was like to have been leaped into. That was really cool. And then of course, Sam's finally remembering his connection with Addison. So, kind of wonder how that's going to affect, how he deals with her from here on out. So all that, it's showing that this show has has great characterization, great writing. It shows a strong connection to the original, and it's really, really worth watching. And I hope that people give it a chance. So that is my hope. And, I hope those of you who are listening in, if you're new to this, will give it a chance. Also, like to know what you thought about the episode. Leave your response down below. As always, comment, rate, subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. And so until next time, this is Dak Crash, better known as Brandon. And as always, stay lucky and stay blessed. Take care.